Chase, you're a man. I'm a man.
That's what they tell me.
But you're a man that appreciates a good statistic.
Okay, sure.
And you're also a part of the statistic. So it's a win-win.
Uh-oh. Don't become a statistic, folks.
According to an article from July of 2024, Steam players may have around $19 billion worth of unplayed games in their libraries.
Oh, yeah.
This estimate is based on the idea that there is about 1.9 billion worth of games in Steam's database that have never been played, and that this figure should be multiplied by 10 to account for non-public profiles. Are you proud?
Interesting. While I definitely am part of that statistic, I would say my Steam library is certainly not as prolific as other people because I'm generally not a PC gamer. So I certainly have my share, and I've certainly bought my share of bundles that,
and you certainly have your shame.
Well, I have no shame. That's not true.
Oh, our photos are backwards on here, by the way. I'm going to work on that while you're talking.
Oh, well, man, you got a real upgrade on the name, didn't you?
Name and hair.
Well, yeah.
Well,
these beautiful locks, not everybody can have them.
I thought that was pretty. I don't know if I'm not surprised, overly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it really is bundles, right? Because it's so easy to buy like 300 games for $20 or whatever, and then only, maybe you play 4 of them for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me in the least that there's a lot of unplayed games out there.
Yeah, I think it also just ties into like the FOMO of it too. Like, oh, I'm going to get this game on sale because I had it on my PlayStation. I want to have it here now. So like I've done that. Like I've bought games purely out of preservation. Like I've already beat them. I don't have an Xbox any longer, so I'm just moving things over that way. But
yeah.
Chase, it is July 17th, 2024. It is 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for you and I, and this is episode 384. It's a deep dive. We haven't done one of these for a while, and I'm excited.
Nice to be back.
It's nice to be back, and I wanted you to feel a little bit more at home with our return to form, so I picked a topic that I think you would like, which is talking about things we don't like. And in
I
this
love
case,
to hate things.
We're going to be talking about the worst things in gaming, and that's going to come after what you've been playing. But if you are with us right now at the top of this episode, we're going to tell you about a couple new games. We're going to check in on a couple old games, but I wanted to just make sure, and we'll do this again before we get into it. But there's certain things we're not going to really spend a lot of time talking about tonight because there's a lot of bad in video gaming, and we're not going to talk about some of or all of that. So like you might not hear us talk a lot about layoffs, and we'll get into more of that list later. But
yeah,
we're going to have a little bit more fun with it.
Despite talking about the things we hate, we're trying to make this a fun, light episode. So consider that when we make our lists.
Like everybody, I'm not going to put on my list because everybody knows that it requires a list. I don't like to Switch. But I do like the Switch. So is it the worst thing in gaming? No. Should it be on that list? We'll see. But that is what we got going on. Let's check in on a few things, Chase, and get into the meat.
My number 4 is you. I am just you, Bobby Pease.
A classic gamer, Bobby.
Hated things in gaming. Number 4 will surprise you.
Chase, what's going on with Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door?
Well, Bobby, I have closed the book on Paper Mario.
GG, as the kids say.
Yes, that's doubly funny because the game starts with them opening like a big book, and then it ends with them closing a book. So, but it also is like it's a paper reference. So, I'm a very clever person.
We don't do review scores here, but if I could ask you to give me a 1 through 5 number right now without much thought, what would you say?
I think it's an easy 4, probably even bumping it up to like a 4.25 or a 0.5. I think it's really damn good.
Love it.
I still think I prefer, and it's probably just my nostalgia goggles. I think I still prefer the first one, the first Paper Mario. I like the characters on the whole a little bit more.
You liked Origami
I like some
King,
of the places
right?
you go. Do I?
You liked Origami King, right?
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I enjoyed the parts that I played, but yeah, there. I think the battle system, while interesting, was not the battle system I had come to love for Paper Mario. We've discussed this before. It kind of feels like the Mario and Luigi games took the Paper Mario combat, but then Paper Mario kept all the fun, interesting accoutrement stuff, and so it kind of felt like the thing I loved, Paper Mario on the N64, got split up into two separate pieces.
Yeah, became like these two things. That's fair.
And I like both of those pieces. I just don't love them like I love the original Paper Mario. Anyway, I had a good time. The game's much longer than I expected it to be. I probably put in a good 35, 40, maybe even higher than that hours. Now, I did some bonus stuff. I didn't do the full... I've seen,
though, like on the list. Like that seems to be
I didn't do the full 100 level dungeon that you can do, where you like I think it's sets of 5 you can leave, but there's no checkpoints anywhere. I did get to level 80 though, and then went like because it was just the weekend. I was just going through these battles. This was maybe like 75% of the way through the game, and I just was curious about what this area was, and I went through about 80 of them, and then I was like, I could keep going, but I really just want to get this game over with at this point. Sure. So I never got to 100, but I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff in it. Despite not liking the characters as much as the ones from the original, I still really loved a lot of those characters. I think it's certainly in the original Paper Mario, it felt like a couple of them fell off in a way where you're like, I'm never going to use this person again. Whereas I think everybody mostly held their value in Thousand Year Door, which was nice to always have a reason to switch back to somebody because they could do something unique. They could hit a specific kind of enemy, or they could.
That character ring switcher too, what they added in with this one, which is super handy.
That was cool too. Like even, and that's in the original as well, but like using powers outside of fights to
it's weird though,
keep
because
doing
that
things.
Wasn't in the GameCube version. Like if that was in the first one, I don't know why they just didn't bring that. Like that was in for the remake. What? The character picker.
Oh, just the circle. Okay, it was like they had to have you using like character abilities outside of battles.
That fast switch thing, that was like part of the remake.
Got it. The quick switch stuff. Yeah. I mean, again, I had a really cool time with it. I think there's a lot of fun puzzle stuff. There are a couple places that drag. I think we mentioned it before, but I think it's like the 3rd star or something where you go to the fight club. That goes on pretty long. Yep. There's a big train sequence that I thought is fun, but also it's kind of slow and it's very adventure gamey where you're not doing any combat, so it kind of feels like you're going in molasses a little bit with the story. But on the whole, I think it's an incredibly solid game. I'm really glad I played it, and now awesome, I think like the next one. Well, I don't know. There's a new Mario and Luigi game coming out relatively soon, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm maybe more excited to go back and play Super Mario RPG, the remake of that one, because that's a game I rented a handful of times, but I never really sat down and played, and I also know that game is short, and so I feel like if I want to go back to a Mario RPG experience, having one that is short would be good. Oh, it does do one last thing I did want to bring up in that. It's something I've seen multiple times in Paper Mario game or in Mario RPG-ish games. And certainly other games as well. It's just, it's weird it happened more than once, where they pull the rug out from under you when you just think you're about to be done. Like the whole thing is, hey, we need to collect these 7 stars for the 1,000 Year Door, and once you open the door, it sounds like, okay, there's just like a big enemy on the other side of that, and that'll be like the big final fight. And the game goes, no, there's a whole extra dungeon that is incredibly long and very puzzly. And I'm like, man, I thought I was at the end, and you're telling me there's more. And Mario and Luigi Paper Jam does that too. The one where Paper Mario is like a 3rd character in there as well. And I remember playing Paper Jam and having a really good time with Paper Jam. And you get all the way up to Bowser's Castle, and you fight Bowser, and he can just kind of immediately beats the shit out of you, and then he
Good
flicks you off
God.
off of the castle, and you like go tumbling back down to the Mushroom Kingdom, and the game goes like, oh yeah, like you're halfway through the game, and I went, I'm all the way through the game. I'm done. I'm putting you down. I thought I was done with the game, and you're telling me
Nino
not even
Kuni
close.
does that. The first one does that too.
Yeah, and that's it's just a bummer to me to feel
Hey,
like you're
If only there
setting
was a
up for something.
podcast that had a list to talk about this type of shit. If
Yeah,
only.
you know that didn't quite make my list, but it's certainly a pet peeve of mine.
That's Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Chase, I am making you a promise. I will have that game completed by Game of the Year.
Okay.
I not because I feel like it's a slog. I really like it. I just need to. I just got done with level 3. I'm at level 4.
Yeah.
I kind of need a little break after that.
I don't want to discourage you from playing it because it is a great game. I had a really fun time with it, but also I think you more or less know what that game is at this point, and you have to know there's like at least another 15-20 hours waiting for you. So I'm not saying it's the worst use of your time, but I don't think it has to be the priority. Because again, like the way we do Game of the Year stuff, we've talked about that, where remakes don't usually get as considered. So for our purposes, I mean, if you want to play it, go for it. Because I think it's great, but I don't think you should kill yourself to get that one done.
All right. I got a couple updates for you. Let's start with the first Descendant, man. I'm really having a great time with this game. It's nothing spectacular when it comes to the story. It's not overly original by any stretch, but
sure,
there is a lot of polish for this being a free-to-play, massive multiplayer looter shooter, and I'm really starting to understand how to min-max my character build and what
maximum horny.
But I've been able to I think I'm like one area away from having all the map done on it.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure
so when you say the map, like this isn't an open world, is it?
It is open when you're in a location. So you go like it's like Destiny is. Like makes sense. You go from the tower, you go to Earth, and you're hanging out in the Cosmodrome. You can go anywhere in there, but if you want to go somewhere else, you have to like go. That's exactly what this is.
I see. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I'm at my level cap, which is level 40, and I hit mastery level 10. I've got it tuned in now. I know where I know what events are going to get me the parts. I've got the 3 legendary weapons. I'm going submachine gun, scout rifle, and sniper for my build, and so I'm working on those things. The boss battles are getting really difficult. This last one was a real motherfucker. I took me quite a few tries, and that's just, I think if I was coordinating with a team, it would like these boss fights feel like they live somewhere between the Chadley room in Final Fantasy VII and the raid bosses of Destiny. They're kind of like that.
And you're not doing these alone, are you? You have randoms that you're linking up with,
and there's not like you stand on this to shoot this piece. It's not anything like that. These are just big fucking bosses that will spawn ads and are very bullet spongy, but they all have weak points. And if you shoot a weak point enough to where it becomes yellow, then you can use your grappling hook and Shadow the Colossus your way onto it and knock a part off the boss, which causes them to go down, and you can do like a big damage phase on it. But you can't really coordinate that with random people.
Yeah.
The other game that I've been playing every day is Zenless Zone Zero. And I know when we chatted on Monday night when we were streaming Balatro, I talked about, I don't know if I talked about it on there, I think I did, about becoming a made man, where I got...
Oh yeah, we definitely talked about that.
Where I got Ellen while mid-flight on an airplane.
Oh, you were flying all right.
I was flying high. Some might say I joined a particular club, but
Jesus.
I did get her, and she's been a lot of fun. So now I've got Grace, I've got Ellen, and I've got Nicole as like my main trio that I'm running with. But that game just kind of keeps open. I'm like, okay, I have to have all the systems now for Zenless Zone Zero. But then it's like, hey, actually, you can have this little critter that will come into battle with you. Oh, and by the way, you can collect these, and they will give you certain boost and
Sure.
abilities. They are pretty non-offensive though in the grand scheme of like, is it Paimon or is that something that's devil shit, right? Or is that
well, Paimon's the little fairy girl from Genshin, yeah.
I'm thinking of Paimon. Is Payment? What am I thinking of from Hereditary? Anyway.
Well, I certainly can't help you there.
This is not nearly as offensive as a Paimon. Yes, cuckoo. As that goes, but man, that game is so fucking good. I just really like that game a whole lot.
I'm glad you're digging it. Like I figured it would just be more anime grist for the mill that you wouldn't care about. I mean, you played Genshin, so you know you've been a slut for this shit before. Yeah, I don't think you spent a whole lot of money in Genshin or anything like that, though.
No.
Yeah.
This one, I think I've put like $40 into Zenless. I think I'm around there.
Yeah.
I have pretty much all of the characters so far. There's a handful I don't have. But I'm also trying now to get I always fuck this up. I think it's like a W bomb. I think is what it's called, which is what you put into your character. They have a really cool legendary shark one that is designed for Ellen. So I'm trying to get that because it's like a limited thing. So that one, though, I'm not putting money towards. I'm grinding out in the game, and if I get the currency, I'm using that for it. But
I told you on Monday, I did download this game. Cool. I think I downloaded it. Did I download it yesterday? Is that when I sent you that post or sent you that photo?
You sent that a few days ago, I thought.
Okay. But yeah, I did download it, and I think my goal here, or my experiment, is that I'm going to put zero money in it, and I'm going to see how much fun I can wring out of it for free. Happy to join up with you and play a little bit and see how the multiplayer is. Especially interested how the cross-play stuff goes with that. Yeah, we'll see. I can totally see myself
on your iPad or your phone, right? Just on your PlayStation.
Yeah, I think I want to play this with a controller. I know I'm sure they optimize it to make it easy to play on a phone or an iPad, but I just also my phone and my iPad Mini are relatively old, so I don't know how well they would run it. But the PS5, I'm sure, runs it just fine.
The only time I use my phone is like in the morning. I'll like just open it up and collect my daily shit.
Sure.
So just tap into that, and then I'll play it on my computer, or I have been playing it on my Ally the most, and it works really well on there. So that's a quick check-in on Chase. Got credits on Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, so we probably won't be talking about that much until December time. First Descendant and Zenless Zone Zero, both are in heavy rotation. I did start Once Human. I'll talk about that next week, and I'll have some more updates on a few other things there. But Chase, you tweeted about a game this week, and we talked a little bit about a teaser for it on Monday. What do you got going on here? What's this website you're talking about?
Yeah, so I saw some friends tweeting about this on I guess Monday, maybe on Sunday, something like that. And it just white screen, some text on it from a website, and it had the name of the website on there. I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. Let's check it out. The website, if people haven't seen it, I don't know how viral it's going. Maybe it was just big among my friends, but it's called whatbeatsrock.com. So you go to the website, and it's pretty blank white background, and there's a picture of a rock there, and there's a little place for you to fill in what beats rock. Just asks you the question. It already auto populates paper for you, so you can just hit enter if you want, and you'll win. But what happens is that you'll type in something, whether you go with the paper that they give you or choose something else, and then the game will. Yep, see, Bobby's got it already. Paper beats rock. That's just how it works. And it gives you a little description of why it would beat rock. And then it says, okay.
Rock, duh.
Totally, yeah. So then it will ask you, okay, now that you've said paper beats rock, what beats paper? So you have to come up with a new thing. And the goal of the game is to just keep guessing, and to each guess is another point. So who can get the highest score in that
paper.
way? Fire beats paper. There you go. So all right, you're already moving outside of the rock paper scissors dynamic, and you've moved on to something else. So Bobby, what do you think beats fire?
I said water.
Well done. You have played a Pokemon game before.
Yes.
Bobby, what beats water?
Grass.
Okay, we're sticking with Pokemon.
Grass drinks up water, so we've got that, which is great.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Can you think of anything that beats grass?
A rock.
Okay.
Oh, it says no repeats.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you gotta be a little careful. You can't just keep doing the same cycle.
A lawnmower.
Okay, perfect. I like your thinking. More lateral thinking going on here.
Lawnmower beats grass. It trims it.
Great. What beats a lawnmower?
I can't use a rock because we've already done that.
That's true. This is your final. Boss fight here. What do you think beats a lawnmower?
A brick.
Okay.
A brick would destroy a lawnmower.
Great.
Yes.
Well done. See, so the game continues on like that.
Yeah.
And it's fun because the game is kind of giving you justifications on why something would or wouldn't win.
Sure.
You can have fun, like making kind of jokey answers. I can tell you where I went when I first played. So I said erosion beats rock, and game's like, yeah, absolutely, erosion would beat a rock. That's how erosion works. And then I said a tree would beat erosion because the root system is going to hold it in place. Yep. Okay. Great on that one. And then I chose termites. Yep, termites beat tree. Then I did magnifying glass, kind of in like same way you burn ants, and it said fine. And then it said, okay, what beats a magnifying glass? And I said, fuck it, I don't know, Columbo. And it was like, yeah, absolutely. Like the magnifying glass is a tool, but Columbo's the one who uses it. That makes perfect sense. Great. And then it asked, what beats Columbo? And I was just being cheeky at that point. And I said, nobody beats Columbo. And the game accepted that, but it also gave me it definitely gave me a reasoned answer that wasn't understanding the joke I did. It was like, yeah, nobody beats Columbo because Columbo wouldn't know a nobody. He can't find the right person. And, then I just kept going on. Who beats nobody? Well, anybody beats nobody. Who beats anybody? Michael Jordan beats anybody. What beats Michael Jordan? Gambling beats Michael Jordan.
Oh, God.
And then I think it was like, what beats gambling? And I said federal regulation. And then it said, okay, what beats federal regulation? And I wrote Republicans. And then it said, no, that one doesn't. And I went, I don't know if you've been under a rock.
Oh God, no, the rock.
What beats rock.com? Yeah. So that's where I ended on my first run. Hey, it's fun. It's fun to just throw out some stuff there. It's fun in the same way when you have your like who would win in a fight, Goku or Superman shit, kind of stuff like that. You can have some fun. The game is able to recognize proper noun stuff like Michael Jordan or Columbo,
and
fictional characters.
On mobile really well too.
Yeah, totally. Like I chose like Mega Man at one point, and then I tried to say Mega Man X would beat Mega Man, and it gave me like, just because it's a new version doesn't mean it beats the classic. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I think it's kind of a fun little time waster. It's fun to put some stuff up. I also did another run where I just took the Jay-Z and Kanye West song, and I said, well, a human beats a rock, and then what beats a human? Well, it's a mob. What beats a mob? It's a king. Fair. What's a king to a god? What's a god to a non-believer? But then the game's like, no, God would still smite a non-believer. I'm like, okay, game. You continue not to know what I'm talking about. I did have some reservations though as I played it, because this feels like AI, right? Like this is like
say it, but I was thinking it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking it too, and I was like, yeah, this is fun, but like obviously this is like some large language model shit. And I couldn't find the developers talk. I mean, the developers, they put their Twitter accounts like right in the website. So I tried to look through that to see if they had any documentation, like, are we using an ethical AI when we build this game. Couldn't find anything about that there. They have a Discord, so I went onto the Discord and tried to look for anything about documentation stuff there about what they're using. Couldn't see anything there. Lots of people, like, the Discord's fun, where they have, hey, here's like a strategy section where people are talking about how you can get up big scores, and here's a place where you can put things that you think might be errors of. I could put that non-believer would be to God thing and say, hey, I think you should reconsider this one in the text. But it wasn't until I did a little just Google searching where I found that, okay, this is absolutely just running on GPT-4 Omni. And then I went, yeah, I'm kind of.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's running on GPT-4 Omni, which is fine, but it's a fun little game. But is it maybe contributing to the heat death of the universe a little bit faster than it needs to be? Yeah, sure. So I stopped playing it pretty quickly, but it was a fun little thing, a fun little trifle. But sure. I would much rather debate with my friends about the dumb shit like that. So, it was fun, but also made me think about my own mortality, which, not a big fan of.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But if you'd like to also waste the resources of our home planet, you can go to whatbeatsrock.com and guess some bullshit.
You know what beats fucking thugs, Chase?
Oh, what beats thugs?
An angry foot, my man.
I like it.
I checked out Angerfoot. We've played this on stream before. We did a Steam Next Fest for this. But for the uninitiated, this came out on July 11th. It was put out by Free Lives. You might know them from Genital Jousting, but it's also published by Devolver Digital. They also did Free Lives did Broforce. They did Terra Nil.
Sure.
Which is,
they got a range.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, you can bring the planet back to life, or you can literally joust with genitals. You tell me what you're in the mood for.
Yeah, or you can just kick people in the face.
And I got to tell you, I've been kicking the shit out of people's face. Angerfoot is a first-person, fast as fuck, spiritual successor to like a Hotline Miami. I think is probably what I would put it.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
It'll set you back $24.99. I'm playing this on PC. I think it's on everything. I think it's on PlayStation, PC, and Xbox for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's on Switch.
I don't think it's on the Switch.
You keep going. Let me talk. Let me read.
But the whole premise is here, you can take depending on who's hitting you, there is a wide range of enemy encounters. The first few that you run into are the smaller individuals that are wearing like hoodies that just have Glocks that have, I think, like 6 or 7 bullets in them. If you run out of ammo, you can throw your gun to stun somebody, but a kick will kill. Kicks kill in this game. So if you kick somebody, they're dead. If you shoot somebody, dead. But you can take a few hits, but if you get hit with a melee, because there's one character that's like a big alligator. Honestly, I think these are like if the baddies from Donkey Kong Country got into like drugs, they would be the baddies from Angerfoot.
Okay.
But what I did not get to do on the stream with you, and what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about tonight, is the progression mechanic with this. So you are working through a map, and when you approach a level, it has 3 objectives. And some of those are like, hey, don't reload your weapon this entire level. Okay, cool. If you do that, you get a star. If you beat the level, you get a star. And then there's usually one other like challenge. So you can get 3 stars per level. And the way it looks, you unlock a new pair of shoes with every 5 stars you get.
Okay.
And so the first pair of shoes I unlocked are really cool because ammo is scarce in this game. And with these shoes on, if I kick and kill somebody, I get a bullet back in my gun.
Okay.
That's a great trade-off because
Sure.
I kick a lot. So I've died, like when I have died, it's because I've been trying to close the gap on enemies when I've had no ammo, and that's a fool's errand. So there are environmental things that you can do. You can like blow things up by throwing weapons at it. You can kick enemies into said area and explode it that way, which is great. One of the levels I got into actually had me traversing between buildings by jumping and kicking through windows and hitting people. I've encountered now, I think 4 different enemy types. Yeah, I've encountered somebody who throws grenades, the big alligators with the baseball bats, the little guys with the Glocks, and then there is another character that's a bit taller and skinnier that has a silenced auto pistol, which is really fun. So,
Okay.
This is, I think, a game for my sanity that is best played in small doses. It's incredibly fast, but it is so silly. The tone and the writing of it reminds me a lot of oh my god, why did I just lose the name of it? It was the you're turning people into food. It's kind of like a Pokemon game.
Turning people into food.
Like they can eat these bugs or these things. Like there's like the hamburger insect that you can capture, and if you feed it to them, like their arm.
Yeah, that's starting to sound a little familiar.
It was a PlayStation Plus game, I thought.
Bug Snacks.
Bug Snacks.
Okay.
So the writing and the art of this game is a lot like a Bug Snacks. It's very like self-aware at times and funny. I've had,
but also it feels like a little bit more like punky, heavy metal-y, in your face kind of stuff, right?
I would say like punky, kind of like hip hop. Like everybody looks like they would be some sort of like break dancer.
Okay.
Like chains, kind of bucket hats, hats, that sort of thing. But it's definitely got a vibe and a style to it. It'll cut like with like the entire time. Like you get into the menu and it's just like like
sure,
doing, like the whole thing, and like you're just running through the beat of it. It's really cool. And your foot's fun.
It's only on PC right now.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yep.
$25 on PC. I think that's a pretty fair price for it. I don't know how long it is, but it's very well polished. Devolver, it meets their house brand pretty well here. So,
yeah, definitely.
That's Angerfoot, man. I don't know how much I'll be talking about that until we get into some, categories here on the show for Game of the Year stuff. But it's certainly not the worst thing in gaming. I'll tell you that much.
You know what might be the worst thing though?
What's that?
The things that show up on our lists.
Yeah. Can you do me a favor? Why don't you kind of set the stage on, I know at the top of the episode we said like what we weren't going to do. Let's break that down a little bit more for the listeners out there.
Definitely. Yeah. So we wanted to do something a little bit fun and light here. There's all sorts of bad shit going on in the video game industry these days.
I'm sorry. I've been like super congested, by the way.
No, that's fine. You're gross. You're a sick man.
Yeah. Sick and sick.
Yes. It's so like we've seen layoffs, we've seen sexual harassment, we've seen Gamergate, we've seen lots of whole studio closures. Yeah. So there's like lots of things that just make us feel sad or angry. And that's not what we wanted to do here. We were thinking about mechanics that we hated, or things that frustrate us, pet peeve kind of things that happen within video games. So I would say if you have something like, we can still keep just kind of broad. Like you can still talk about, I don't know, like the example I gave to Bobby, which is not on my list, maybe it's on Bobby's, is like endless sequels, like if not getting new IPs and things like that. I think that is still within the spirit of what we're doing here, but we're trying to kind of avoid bummers a little bit. Like I don't want to be the no bummers podcast, but at least like this episode we are, we talk so much about studio closure and things like that,
within or without games, that fucking sucks. And this show,
and we cover it. We cover that on our news segments before. We've definitely talked about it, but for this deep dive, we wanted to just kind of have some fun.
Yeah, totally. And so what you've asked me to do, and I agree with you, I think it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. We've put these into a top 10 for us. So we're going to start each giving you, the listeners and watchers, our number 10, and we'll work our way up. And if there are, things that overlap here, maybe we'll say definitively, like, here's what we think sucks.
Now, also, I know I have a reputation around here that I do not like things, and I hate most things. And while that might be true, I did want to be positive in this moment. So for many of these, not for all of them, because not all of them really have a good alternative, but I did try to come up with, here are some games that do that take that negative and turn it into a positive, or I like the way they've solved that problem better than the thing I don't like. So I'm also going to try to put a positive spin on some of the things I hate, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
God, you are so brave. Well, how about I kick us off?
I would love that.
Because I'm going to get you upset right away and see how much you stand to what you need to. My number 10 is
anime.
Nintendo's online services / friend codes.
Yeah, no, that's obvious. That's easy.
That sucks. And while I think everybody right now is struggling to figure out what it means to offer services to their communities behind their product, I think it would be so much better if you could just say, hey, look up Lumberjack Smack and you'll find me and you can add me as your friend, versus here's this code you need to know to be my friend. Here's a secondary app you need. Like, we've now got Discord integration on consoles. We now have just a friends list that like I can go in and put I can still put your name in there, but getting that and sharing that and linking up with people, and even just how they bake it into their games. Like Animal Crossing really suffered from a lack of great online service from them. They should do better.
Yeah, I agree. And also just Nintendo has used safety as like a catch-all for like why, like they've just been hiding behind it as a reason of why their online services can't be better. Like, oh, we got to make sure we got to use friend codes, so you make sure your child's not getting exposed to people who suck. I'm like, that's just a bad answer at this point. We have other places that have I wouldn't say figured it out, but have gotten better about it and still have pleasant ways of connecting people together. And I just don't see it as a good excuse anymore. So I think it's a solid one.
Yeah, totally. What do you got?
My number 10 is this is one I'm dealing with right now in some games, but it's partial VO. So you have games that don't have any voiceover whatsoever, and you're just reading stuff, and that's fine. And then you have games that are fully voiced. It's like you have games that are fully voiced, and I like that too. Yeah. But there are a lot of games, and the first one that I remember playing, and it's a game I love, Fire Emblem Awakening, had like not barks exactly, because they were still like in cutscenes and things like that. It wasn't just like the things you'd hear outside of like when you're in battle or whatever. But there would be parts where it's somebody saying like the first part of a line, and then you read the rest of it. So you can't just listen to it. You're not getting anything out of it. But you also just it's like they're giving you a crumb, and I don't like it. Like go full one way or full the other way. And the one that I'm dealing with right now is the Advance Wars 1+2 reboot camp, where you'll get Olaf goes grit, and then doesn't finish the rest of his sentence.
Or like as Link says,
I honestly, even that's better when it's like, okay, it's just like the little incidental sounds, but it's when somebody like tries to like throw the same 4 canned lines at you, and then they just write the rest of it. Like that just doesn't quite work for me. It's what I really appreciated about Fire Emblem Echoes over Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates is that they finally just said, yes, we will fully voice the parts of the game that need to be fully voiced. No, great. That's perfect. Partial VO, not a big fan.
Totally. I think that's very fair. My number 9 here is one that we touched on a few episodes back, but the lack of game preservation in the industry right now, I think, is really a problem. And you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. We talked a lot about it. Please go back and check out our other episode where we talk about this. It was, I think, 380, where we talked about around the time that Forza Horizon 4 was being delisted. But just like this ties into just like the lack of support for game licensing. Some games you can't download anywhere. We really ran into this when we tried to do Portal, because we ran into weird hardware and software issues, and we had a hell of a go with it. But I think and
then they just re-released the game like right after we did our thing.
I almost put like I don't want to say this because I don't want to like try and sneak another one in here with it, but I'll just say it's a real shame that emulation has some of the ethical things around it, because I think there are ways, like I know Brad Shoemaker's been pulling his save files from his NES cartridges and bringing those into ROMs and doing some cool shit with it. There's ways to do it, But I mean, again, not to like dog on Nintendo, they've been very, very aggressive on some of the things around it, and they've also been taken advantage of in a bad way too, though. But I think it's just it's becoming harder and harder as we move to more digital and subscription formats to really preserve games and licensings that come with it. I think you are pretty passionate about this, maybe a little bit more than I am, but it's still weighing on me a lot as I'm looking back and they're closing the 360 store right now.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah, that one didn't make my list. I don't know if I'd classify it as a bummer, but it was just something where I was like, yeah, that it didn't even cross my mind for this kind of a list. But I absolutely agree. That's a huge pet peeve and something that doesn't seem like it's getting better. You'll get hints of it, like somebody will come out with a cool collection that Marvel Street Fighter Capcom thing collection of fighting games is coming out real soon.
Museum of Games.
Atari 50, and then the Jeff Minter collection too. Like there are some places that are doing really well, and even again, don't want to give Nintendo their flowers because mostly they're bad in this situation. But the Nintendo Switch Online stuff, they are dropping new games on there, or new old games on there.
What's the one that comes out this week for them too?
Is that the Starfy?
No, the speedrunning one where it's like the collection of all their Nintendo Championship stuff.
Oh, right. The NES Championship stuff. Yeah. But also they just put out Starfy, which is a Game Boy Advance series that was Japan only, and it's on the Switch Online for free, or not for free, but for the members who have the Switch Online stuff. And it's like, hey, this is a game. We're not translating it, obviously, but we are putting it out for Americans to play for the first time officially. And that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to get stuff like that in there some ways. But it sucks when they also take advantage of it by Star Fox 2. Remember that? Well, you have to buy this other little device just to play this game, when so many people are like, well, we've been emulating it for years. Why should we have to do that?
Yep.
So totally agree. Yep. My number 9 is bad/no maps. I think I like a good map in a game. I like to know where I am. I like to not just feel like I'm lost. Not every game needs a map, obviously. Like there's some games like thinking of something like Children of the Sun. Like that game doesn't really need a map. You're in a very enclosed area, and you are able to kind of look at the area enough. You don't need a map necessarily, but most games feel like I just need a map. And again, like recency bias here. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, sometimes I just need a fucking map on some of these dungeons. It'd be really nice to just like, can you just show me, am I actually going in the right direction? I can't remember. You can give it like a Hollow Knight kind of thing where you have to go to the area before it gets added to the map. But there's just, when you put no map on there, I feel like I am wasting a lot of my time. And honestly, that's like my number one of everything. And I just, it encompasses everything. So I didn't put it in, but wasting my fucking time is my number one pet peeve in all of video games. And everything on my list feels like it's laddering back up to something that wastes my time.
Well, we had a game this year that I think really revolutionized the map genre too. Not genre, but the map mechanic, which was Prince of Persia. Like that fucking map system where you could basically put snapshots and like go and see a photo on the map. Like, yeah, I think that
was cool.
They did some cool, like, maps matter. You have to have a map.
Yeah, I agree.
My number 8, Chase, is price equaling quality. I have a big pet peeve with this one when it comes to that game is not worth my time because it's $2. I should not, like, this game should be more because I'm paying this much for it, or a game having a value. Like, I think this really happened with like mobile and indie games, especially, where it's just like, hey, why are they charging $30 for this? And most recently we've had a lot of folks get very upset, and I feel like there's unrealistic expectations placed on games based off of the monetary value that they bring. So like, how could a $15 game be better than a $60 game? Or this game is not worth 60. Like, what does that mean? Because I might have a very different experience with a video game that costs $60 versus $3 and be very happy. We've talked about Florence a lot on this show, and that's under $5, and that's a game that has had staying power. But we've also talked about games that we've dropped hundreds of dollars on, either
Yeah.
through gacha or other shit. So yeah,
And like kind of is related to that a touch, but games that feel like they need to be longer to justify their price tag.
totally.
And that gets into maybe more wasted time stuff, but this idea that, oh, well, we had to throw in 20 hours of filler because we don't feel like people would be happy
you mean
enough
Final
with
Fantasy 7.
Sure. Yes. And I played a lot of that, and some of it's a good time, and I get it from like a developer standpoint of, well, the filler is the easiest stuff for us to put in because all the mechanics are done at that point. But also, it just kind of usually ends up making your game worse, and making me feel like shit as I continue to play it hour after hour. And maybe I really would have loved the 10 to 15 hour experience, but you stretched out into a 25-30 hour experience, and that is exhausting at that point. So I come with a bad taste out of my mouth.
Yep, for sure.
My number 8 should be a relatively quick one. Corpse runs. Not a fan. Don't like corpse run stuff. One of the reasons I wasn't like a World of Warcraft guy, it just didn't appeal to me, and part of that was the kind of wasted time of corpse runs. A big reason why the Souls games don't catch me is that I can enjoy a hard fight that can be fun, but when I know that if I lose that fight because it's hard and I lose it in a matter of seconds only to get sent back and have to make like a 2, 3, 5 minute run to get back to where I was, that just feels punishing in a way that is not fun for me, and never liked it. I much prefer, I know it's very different, a very different kind of game, but I much prefer like your Super Meat Boys or your Bit Runners or your Tony Hawks, where it's like just restart the mission immediately, go right back into it, like just instant respawn stuff. Let me get into a flow and figure this out, rather than feeling like, okay, I'm building up to this moment, oh, I died, and let me go spend another 5 minutes building back up to that moment. That just sucks and takes all the wind out of my sails.
Yep, agreed. I don't think that we need to spend a lot of time on this, but I think the console wars are fucking stupid and they need to go away.
I think that's fair.
While I'm at it, I think console exclusives are fucking stupid too, but that's not what I'm here to say.
I mean, console wars, I can't tell if it's just like a child thing, if it's like just a thing of like, when you grow up, console wars matter because your parents are only going to afford one for you or something like that. But or if it's really something that the industry has moved past or is trying to move past, or some of us have moved past. So I can't tell if it's that, but it definitely feels a little different from like this from the Nintendo versus Sega days.
Yeah.
Like it feels like we've gotten past it a little bit, but then yes, you definitely see some people who have who do not know the war is over, and they're on their tiny islands continuing to fight.
Look, I
these
have
proxy wars.
My
that
preference of where I play things, but I think it's really dumb.
I mean, you hate the Switch, so obviously you've chosen your side.
What about you? What's your number 7?
My number 7 is backtracking. It sucks. Backtracking in games. It's one of the big reasons why I'm not a Metroidvania fan. I feel like you are going, and part of the reason they make the games like that is, you get this idea, like it's a world you live in, and every rock and pebble that's around here, so what to overturn. And I'm like, generally, that's not. It just, I want to see new stuff. I like enjoying the new things and going to a new place and having things be exciting. So one of the ways that I kind of like put a spin on it, this is the first one where I kind of have like, here's the positive version. I actually really enjoyed the first Halo Combat Evolved, where the second half of that game has you go back through levels that you already went through in the first few missions, but now they're kind of recontextualized. You're going through them backwards, or you're going from a new angle to this, or there are new kinds of enemies, or a big bridge has fallen down, so you can't go the way you went the first time you went through this, or now there's a big tank here that you get to use where you didn't get to use the tank there before, and I found that really fun. Of oh, I know this area, but also you're subverting my expectations on this area. And I thought that was really
Yeah.
cool. But when I'm playing like a Metroid game and I'm just continuing to go back and forth through this one room and continuing to fight the same enemies that are in that room, kind of just like, can we skip this part? Can I get to the part where I get to the new area? Because this is
You heard
not
it
fun
here.
for me.
Don't waste this time, folks. My next one, Chase.
Yeah.
Fuck manual saves.
Okay. I'm of two minds on that, but I want to hear more.
Well, I want to be able to create my own permanent save, but I also don't want to have to be fucked if I didn't do that. Like,
Sure.
We talked a lot about this with Animal Well. A lot of that where you had to come back a bit further from it. I mean, the last game that I played where I had like, what was it? I feel like I know Resident Evil had it for sure. Resident Evil 4 had like you had to go and save in certain areas. I'm pretty sure if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
But in general, I like an auto save where I can also go in and create a manual save in there as
Yes.
well. That is what I look
I
for in this.
I think, like to tweak yours a little bit, I think like save points are things I don't love so much.
Yeah.
I would love to just kind of really be able to have the freedom to save anywhere.
Yep.
I'm a busy guy. Sometimes I don't have time to get to a save point. I do think most of the consoles that we're seeing today, like with a Switch or even with Xboxes or PlayStations, they do just go into a rest mode. Handheld games were always really good about this because you could just close the DS, or they just knew that you were on the go and you had to leave at any point. So you can just, for like a Pokemon, you can save anywhere and turn the game off and be good. But it is when you play like older Final Fantasy games where you can save in the overworld, but if you are in a dungeon you can't save, and if you die, it's not a corpse run exactly, it's like a corpse run without the corpse, but you get sent back to your last save point, and that it feels archaic. I agree. I feel like we're past it, but it is nice to just be like, I want to make a save right here. I'm choosing to make a save right now manually. But yeah, I agree. That could suck.
Yep.
My number 6 is also something you see in a lot of RPGs, and it's taking away gear and or party members. Like Final Fantasy IV, I think is a really good one that I'm thinking of here, where there's these two characters you get, Palom and Porom, and a part of the game, spoilers, I guess, for a Super Nintendo game, they get turned to stone, and you just lose them as party members, and they never come back for the rest of the story. Like they're there, you just lost them, and you haven't dealt with this exactly, but Final Fantasy VII, there's a character you don't get back at some point, and it sucks because you feel like you put a lot of resources into a character, and you have a build that you've got going on, and you've been strategizing with this thing, and now it's just gone, and I think that's kind of lame. I get that there's like an emotional value to it, but when you take away a party member, or even like take away gear, this is you get this in like Metal Gear Solid games where you get captured at some point. In lots of games you get captured and they take away all your stuff, and you've got to fight kind of from level 1 again until you can get back to your gear and be okay. And I always hate those segments of games. They just feel like, hey, we're being a little unfair to you, and we're going to change the whole way the game is played for this little section, because fuck you, that's why. And it's just not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Do I have a game that so like the thing I do like, the positive spin, is splitting the party. I like splitting the party in a game. Like I really like for like Final Fantasy VII Remake, where hey, these two characters went off to this area, so now you do have to change your strategy a little bit because you only have these two characters, but you also know that everybody's going to come together again at the end of this sequence, so you do get a little bit of that same kind of thing of, oh, you can't rely on this character forever, you got to still come up with different strategies, but you haven't lost all this progress that you made because this thing is gone now, and that's where I feel like it can be done much better. I guess it doesn't have the emotional weight of a character dying, but it's still
Sure.
it feels better when I'm playing a game, especially an RPG where I'm investing a lot of time into specific characters.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and pick up my pacing a little bit here on my end, but I have non-standard face buttons on my number 5.
Okay.
And so what I hate is that PlayStation has their own face buttons, Microsoft and Nintendo. There should be a universal. This is where X is. Like, if I could fix it, make it fucking north, east, southwest.
Sure.
Press the N button. I know that's north. Go that route.
Especially Microsoft and Nintendo, because they're using the same 4
Yes.
letters.
Yes.
Sony, at least, like, hey, we made it completely different, so you'll figure it out. I guess like there's still the Japanese thing of does X mean go or does X mean back? And but yeah, I agree. Like remembering which one is X and which
Yes.
one is Y in Nintendo and Microsoft is silly.
Very, very much so.
Yeah, that's a good one. My number 5 is empty open worlds. I hate I used to love open worlds. They're so cool and like so different from the kinds of games I played before. And then you play a few of them and you go, holy shit, there's just nothing to do. There's nothing to do here. This is boring, and it pads the runtime so much, and I'm not getting I guess it's immersive, but I'm also just on a horse for 12 minutes going from place to place. I'm not having fun, even if I'm immersed. I'm immersed in how much not fun I'm having.
Very understood.
I don't have an alternative here. Just put shit.
No.
If you're going to make an open world, put shit in your open world. That's the thing you do.
I am very much against, Chase, online connection requirements for single player games. I think that is absolute
hell yeah, brother.
bullshit. I ran into this a lot when I was traveling. I wanted to be able to play certain games on my handheld that like, nope, you're on an airplane, you need online requirements. And I think for a single player game, there's apps. I understand if I want to play with somebody, I need to be online or together physically. But to make me have to always be online to play your game, at least give me an offline mode. Like Diablo 4, you cannot play that game without an online connection. I don't need that. So it's very silly.
It's one of the reasons I actually do really like the Switch is that developers, when they build something for a Switch, know, hey, this is a thing that people take with them. They will not always have a internet connection, so we can't make that a requirement. Or if you do make that a requirement for your game, like the cloud-based stuff that you get with like the Resident Evil, and there were some other games that did that too. It's at least clearly labeled like, hey, this is not a game you can play on your Switch if you're away from your Wi-Fi.
Or Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, no, I've always got my waifus with me. I would never abandon them. My number 4, I called sandbags, and I specifically mean like Dicey Dungeon and to an extent Monster Train. Games I really enjoy. But what happens is, it especially happens in Dicey Dungeons, where you choose a character and you play the game, and I have a lot of fun, and I beat the game, and then it goes, okay, great, you beat the game. Here's new challenges to do, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do level 2 with the warrior. And level 2 with the warrior just means we put a bunch of extra bullshit requirements on you, and good luck, scrub. And that's the stuff I don't like. We talked about on our preview, because Darkest Dungeon 2 was getting ported to some consoles, and like I don't really like Darkest Dungeon because it piles on punishments to a player rather than letting me innovate up to an interesting, what I view as more interesting. Like I don't mind an enemy that is stronger. It makes me come up with a better strategy. But when you hamstring me, that feels a little less fun. And I know like when you do like the intensity levels on Monster Train, it's kind of the same way of just, oh, what if you did more with less, instead of here are more resources for you to deal with more varied enemies. I appreciate when things get more. I don't really like it when I am lessened in video games.
Totally fair.
Yeah, not a fan.
You know what else I don't like? Timers. Fuck timers.
Timers for me is number 1.
That's my number 3. I can't stand timers for various reasons. They give me anxiety. It's not what I want from a game. I don't want to be pressured on something. And I think I first realized this in Ocarina of Time when I had to get Big Goron sword and try to get those tears up the mountain. Like I did not like that. Or turtles with the bombs underwater. I didn't like that either. But yeah.
Yeah. I hate them too. Obviously, that's my number one. But like, it feels so arbitrary sometimes, and it's based on what a developer thinks is a good time, which for some people is going to be way too easy. For other people, it's going to be way too hard. And I just don't enjoy that mechanic. Sometimes like if it's in universe, like if it has like a thing that makes sense, I can kind of get behind it. Again, I'm not the biggest Metroid fan, but with every Metroid game ending with some kind of race to get off of the planet before it explodes or whatever, usually there's like a bomb that's set for 3 minutes or whatever, and you're on a big run. And I can understand it from like a narrative standpoint. It's just no fun to play. And I think again about like a Halo Combat Evolved, where you have a similar, we need to get the fuck off the ring, and you're in the Warthog and you go through that whole sequence. But it's not like the game, it's not like if you stopped the Warthog you would die. It's not on a time limit. Actually, no, it is on it. That first one is on a time limit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind on that one then. But the thing that I do like is the soft timers. Things that I think about games like Risk of Rain, where the game incrementally gets more difficult, but it's not telling you have to go. You can still scrounge up resources and upgrades, just knowing that the game is going to keep getting harder. So you have to keep thinking about, is this risk versus the reward that I'm getting? Another game that does that is Spelunky with the Ghost. Like, okay, the Ghost comes out at 2 minutes, but you don't have to. It's not saying you're done at 2 minutes. Every level has to be 2 minutes, because you can kite that Ghost around and still do a lot of stuff. People do. That's how you get the big scores. But it is a way for the game to softly tell you, like, hey, you need to hurry the fuck up, without making it a big punitive punishment, which totally in favor of. Yeah. So yeah, that's my number one, and your number three. My number three, encumbrance.
That's my number one.
Yeah, sucks.
It's the fucking worst thing ever.
It's really bad. Like you're playing, you obviously we see this the most in Bethesda games, Skyrim and Fallout and things like that. And I really don't like the way they do it, where you just move to a fucking crawl. And I've definitely had to make that weighing decision of, am I close enough to this fucking town that I'm going to just walk slowly all the way there, or am I going to drop a bunch of stuff in one spot and hope that it doesn't despawn by the time I'm able to come back to it? It's not a fun mechanic. I get why they do it. You don't want to be able to have everything on you. They want you to make interesting choices, but I don't like that. I don't like the Dark Souls gear loads and tying that to your roll and which kind of roll you can do based on the weapon weight you've got on. I think all that stuff just fucking sucks.
If you have to do it a certain way, if it's based on inventory size. So Enshrouded is a game that came out in early access this year, and if you have like 9 slots in your inventory, you can carry as much as you want of any of those items in there. So if I'm going chopping
like the stacks,
trees, I can infinitely stack wood, but I can't pick anything else up. That is my trade-off here. Like I will do that, but I will not move, and you can't fast travel. You have to drop this. Like I hate it so much. It's my number one.
The alternative I have is, two games that I have not played, but I know you've played at least one, and we're at least both aware of the other, is Resident Evil and Resident Evil 4 specifically, the one I'm thinking of, but the one you know the best, Dredge, where you have a box, you have limited slots, and sometimes you have inventory things that take up multiple slots or take up slots in a very awkward orientation, and you need to find, like, I think that's a really fun puzzle. In fact, they built a whole game around a small indie game. No, there's another one that I was thinking of too. I have it on Steam, but yeah, the idea is that it's just the inventory parts of Resident Evil where you're like, okay, this gun is like in an L shape, so I've got to like Tetris it around this other thing. That's cool to me because it still gives you can only carry a limited amount of items. You can only carry so many of the big items because they take up certain kinds of slots. I think that's way more fun than just the game going, we decided an arbitrary number that no, you can't carry this anymore. That's lame to me for sure.
Yeah. And I guess our number twos will be our final ones since we got our ones out of the way here. But my number two, what is it, Chase?
It's weapon degradation.
It is.
Because it's my number two as well.
Yeah!
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely, man.
But the only way to make this a tolerable thing is to do exactly what Tears of the Kingdom did. That is the best approach to this, while you can fuse things together. If I have a weapon that's going bad, I can add another one, and then I want to make my own shit.
It made it more palatable. I will agree with you there. I still wish, and I understand Nintendo's point of view. If we just gave you a Master Sword that can never get tired, then all you're going to use is the fucking Master Sword. But I still, and it happened a lot with Breath of the Wild. So I agree, Tears of the Kingdom is an upgrade. But there were times where I'd come back to that world, and I'd used all my weapons had broken. And now I'm kind of stuck without anything. And I come back to the game and go, I don't really want to spend 15, 20 minutes finding enough weapons to make me decent enough to move on to the thing that I want to do. It was not a way I like playing that. And then, I've mentioned Fire Emblem before. It's my favorite franchise. That most of those games deal with weapon uses in one way or another, which can be really frustrating to me. I understand how the balance works and making you make those kinds of choices, but I often just do not like the idea of, hey, you only get to use this weapon 20 times, especially in a game like Fire Emblem where a fast character can hit an enemy twice. So sometimes it's like, oh, well, I didn't really want to use that weapon twice. I kind of just wanted to use it once, but you didn't really give me that option. So, fuck, I just kind of wasted some resources there. And there's a game that I think does this system really well. I wrote about it for Gamers on the Go a really long time ago. Well, not a really long time ago, but a decent amount. It's called Banner of the Maid. And I know Bobby obviously is big into maids these days.
I'm a maid.
But that game is a Fire Emblem, a turn-based strategy kind of game on a grid. And they give you the weapons, and the weapons have uses. It's still weapon uses, but it's weapon uses per map. So each character has, I have this sword and it's got 20 uses in it, but it has 20 uses for this map, and then I lose the sword. But then the next map comes and I'm back up to 20, which I think is really cool because it makes you micro strategize, knowing that you're going to get these things back. And especially when I play a game like Fire Emblem Three Houses, where I would they have like a blacksmith in there that basically you either buy your weapons again or you forge them to get them back to the right amount of uses. And it ended up just being every single fight I would go back to the blacksmith and make sure everybody was filled up on their weapons and everything back to the top. And I was like, man, I'm spending like 20 minutes every time going back and just wasting my time getting my weapon limits back to max, where the game could just go, oh, you bought a bronze weapon, it has 50 uses. If you've used it 50 times in this level, we'll give it to you again at a new 50, because we know you're just going to do that again. Even just ways of automating it. If it just cost me, if the game's at the end and it's like, hey, do you want to just get everything back to full with a press of one button? I would go, yes. And here's the money for it, and that'd be fine. But it's individual every time. It's like, oh, I want to buy another silver sword, or I need to forge this iron bow. I'm like, this sucks. I hate this, even in my favorite franchise. So
I'm with you. Same with me. Same with Zelda. My favorite thing. Before we go to credits here, Chase, we did do a poll so let's check in with our community here.
Sure.
We were able to get a pretty good response in. A lot of activity on this one. I gave 4
What are the
options.
people saying?
I gave them 4 choices. I said you need to pick from being over encumbered. You need to pick from weapon degradation, quick time events, which neither one of us picked for our list.
Ooh, sure. Yeah.
And timed missions. And we had a winner at 45% with weapon degradation, but we had a tie for being over encumbered at 27% with quick time events, and we had nobody who felt time missions
Wow.
were a problem. But
Interesting.
yeah, the community feels pretty strongly about weapon degradation, and rightfully so. I would back them up on that.
Yeah, another classic one that neither of us mentioned is escort missions. Escort missions, hated thing.
I had that on here for either time missions or escort missions. I went with time just because I feel stronger about it. But
I think if this was 10 years ago, I wonder where water levels would have gone in our list. I feel like we've gotten better water levels in the last decade that has made.
I don't mind being underwater that much anymore.
I mean, yeah, I think we all think about like the water temple from Ocarina of Time, where we go like, oh, that sucked. Or for me, I think about like all the fucking water in Pokemon Emerald or Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. Like those aren't really water levels exactly, but just the same idea. Like, oh, I'm spending so much time in these very similar spaces, and that stuff sucks. But I think Tears of the Kingdom has some swimming stuff, and it's not that bad. And there are plenty of other games that have you swim, and I think they've upgraded the way that water levels work in so many games that it's not nearly as shitty as it was in the past.
Well, because our photos are messed up and I can't stop my nose from running, quickly here for us as we wrap up. Balatro was a ton of fun on Monday. You can go check out our VOD on that. Tonight we told you about the worst things in games, and on Friday I'm going to be playing The First Descendant or Dungeons of Hinterberg, one of those two games on Friday night stream. That's what we've got going on this week. Chase, what about you? What do you have?
My name is Bobby now. If you look at the thing, it says my name is Bobby, so you should call me that instead.
Mm-hmm.
Right
why
there.
Just can we hurry this up so I can blow my fucking nose, please?
Yes. There's a new episode of Black Hole Sun, me playing through Advance Wars 2. That game continues to be pretty cool. And then there's also a new episode of Pilot Program that we do with our good friend Pierce Corshane, or I do with my good friend Pierce Corshane, friend of the show. It was on The Jeffersons, which was a ton of fun, 1975 classic sitcom. We had a great time talking about that. And then we've announced our next episode is going to be on Lost. So we're gonna tackle a big one, and that'll be interesting. It's been a while since I've watched Lost, so that'll be a fun conversation as well. Go check out those links in the description or in the chat.
Chase, thanks for all your help on this one. Really enjoyed it. Sorry I was a little sick on this episode, everybody.